I've been a nurse for over 20 years, and in that time, I've collected my fair share of stories. You see things in a hospital, especially on the night shift, that are hard to explain. I'm talking about shadows that dart across empty hallways, call lights that go off in vacant rooms, and patients who have full conversations with people who aren't there. I've seen it all, and honestly, after a while, you learn to brush most of it off. You have to, just to get through the night. But there was one night, a single event, that was so profoundly strange, so chilling, that I've never been able to forget it. It happened at Willowcrest Community Hospital, tucked away in the quiet rural town of Brighton Hills. That night, I was on the palliative care floor, looking after two elderly patients in adjacent rooms. Their rooms, 218 and 219, shared a wall. Their beds were placed back to back, separated only by that thin layer of drywall. If the wall wasn't there, their headboards would practically be touching. In room 218, we had Mr. Alan Rivers. Mr. Rivers was, for all intents and purposes, no longer with us. He had been completely unresponsive for weeks. His eyes were open but fixed, staring blankly at the ceiling. They didn't react to light, and he showed no response to any form of stimulus, not a word, not a twitch, not even a blink. His body was alive, sustained by machines and drips, but his mind, his spirit, that was somewhere else entirely. He was in a persistent vegetative state, and we were just providing comfort care until his body finally gave out. Next door, in room 219, was Miss Elaine Carter. She was the polar opposite of Mr. Rivers. Miss Carter was completely alert, sharp as a tack, and painfully aware of her situation. She knew she didn't have much time left, and she was facing it with a mix of fear and acceptance that I'd seen many times before. She was a kind woman, always had a gentle word for the staff, even when she was in pain. Her decline had been rapid, and we all knew her final hours were approaching. The night started like any other quiet night on the floor. The hum of the machinery, the soft beep of monitors, the occasional cough echoing down the hall. Around 2:30 a.m., things started to shift. The air grew heavier, more charged. It's a feeling you get on a palliative floor when death is near. I was doing my rounds, checking vitals, when I went into Miss Carter's room. Suddenly, around 2:40 a.m., she became extremely agitated. She was clutching her bed sheets, her knuckles white. Her breathing was shallow and rapid, her chest heaving with the effort. Her eyes, wide with a mixture of terror and desperation, locked onto mine. "Don't save me," she begged, her voice a strained whisper. "Please, I don't want any heroics. Just help me go peacefully. Please, just let me go." It's a request we hear often in hospice care. It breaks your heart every single time. I held her hand, trying to offer what little comfort I could. I told her we would keep her comfortable and that we would honor her wishes. I adjusted her oxygen, administered the pain medication the doctor had ordered, and just sat with her for a moment, trying to soothe her with my presence. While I was drawing up her next dose of medication, my nurse assistant, a young woman named Sarah, rushed to the doorway. Her face was pale, and her eyes were as wide as saucers. She was practically vibrating with a nervous energy. You need to come see room 218, she stammered, pointing down the hall. Right now. My first thought was that Mr. Rivers had coded. It wouldn't have been a surprise. I told Sarah to stay with Miss Carter and call another nurse to assist, and I hurried down the hall toward room 218. But before I even reached the doorway, I heard it, and my blood ran cold. It was singing. A man's voice, a deep tenor, was echoing from inside the room. It was loud, trembling with age, but also strangely, hauntingly beautiful. The voice was singing an old hymn, the words clear and resonant in the quiet of the night. "I'm going home, to the gates of light, walking with the Lord tonight." My heart pounded against my ribs. I froze in the hallway. This was impossible. Mr. Rivers hadn't made a sound in weeks. He hadn't spoken, coughed, or even moaned. The staff had talked about how eerily silent he always was. And now, this powerful, sorrowful song was pouring out of his room. I took a deep breath and cautiously stepped inside. And what I saw made the situation even more bizarre. Mr. Rivers was exactly as he always was, lying motionless in bed, his eyes open and fixed on some invisible point on the ceiling. His face was slack, expressionless, but the singing was coming directly from him. His chest rose and fell with each note, the sound emanating from deep within him, even though his lips barely moved. I was completely stunned. I walked over to his bedside. "Mr. Rivers?" I called his name, my voice a little shaky. No response. I touched his leg. Nothing. I gently shook his arm, trying to get any kind of reaction. Still nothing. His body remained limp and unresponsive, a stark contrast to the powerful, unwavering hymn that continued to fill the silent room. It was as if his body was just a vessel, and some other force was using his voice. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, just listening, completely mesmerized and utterly terrified. I checked his vitals. They were unchanged, his heart rate steady. There was no medical explanation for what was happening. It defied all logic. After a few minutes, I was jolted back to reality by the urgent call for me to return to Miss Carter's room. Her condition was deteriorating quickly. I left Mr. Rivers, still singing his solitary hymn, and rushed back to room 219. The next 25 minutes were focused entirely on Miss Carter. We did everything we could to make her final moments peaceful, just as she had asked. She passed away quietly, surrounded by staff who had grown to care for her deeply. It was a sad but peaceful end. After she was gone and I had completed the necessary postmortem care, the quiet, respectful tasks that follow a patient's passing, my mind immediately went back to the room next door. The singing, had it stopped? I had to know. I walked back down the hall to room 218 and stood outside the door, listening. Silence. The deep, echoing hymn was gone. The only sound was the gentle whir of the ventilator. I slowly pushed the door open and stepped inside. Mr. Rivers lay exactly as he had before, motionless, eyes open, staring at nothing. The room was still, the strange energy from before completely dissipated. It was as if the singing had never happened. I asked Sarah and the other nurses on the floor if they had heard him stop. They all confirmed it. The singing had ended abruptly, right around the time Miss Carter had passed away. The timing was so precise, it sent a shiver down my spine. Mr. Rivers remained in our care for another week after that night. He never made another sound. No more singing, no words, nothing. He eventually passed away peacefully in his sleep, as silent as he had been before that one extraordinary night. To this day, I can't explain it. Was it a coincidence? Some bizarre, unexplainable brain activity in a dying man? Or was it something more? It felt like Mr. Rivers, whose own mind was long gone, was somehow using his voice to guide Miss Carter on her journey. Like he was her spiritual escort, singing her home to the other side from the bed right next to hers, through the wall. A final, beautiful, and deeply terrifying act of connection between two souls at the edge of life. It's the one story from my 20 years as a nurse that still gives me chills. Some things you just can't explain. Thanks for listening to my story. If you have any similar experiences, I'd love to read about them in the comments. And if you enjoyed this, please consider liking the video and subscribing for more strange tales from the hospital floor. Stay safe out there.